Good morning. Good morning, J-Dog. Good to see you. Welcome to the room. I'm opening a little early today just because I'm ready. And I don't know, I think it's going to be an interesting week, guys. Astrologically, there's some spiky energy coming up this week. Mars and Uranus are having a Mars and Uranus are just not going to get along this week. And there's going to be this argument between what has been Taurus, what could be Aquarius. And when I saw the transits this week, I was compelled to go look at the chart of the United States and the chart of its leaders, primarily the president and the vice president. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit because I think it's going to be relative to what we may see in the news, what we may, it's going to be kind of I feel like we're rings on a tree right now. We have our individual lives, we have our community lives, and then we have our governmental lives. And YouTube is talking to me, coaching me as I'm doing my live. So I think these are all going to affect us. But before I start, I just want to share a little bit and ask a few questions, honestly. Good morning, Just Call Me C. So good to see you in the room. We had our eclipse on the 17th last week, and I got to tell you, for me right now, Jupiter is, hi MK, is literally conjunct my IC at 15 degrees of Cancer. And my neighbor went into the hospital 3 weeks ago. He's in his early 70s, and he went in with a twisted intestine. And on the eclipse day, he unalived himself through medical intervention or medical assistance, I should say, which apparently is legal in California. I knew it was legal in Oregon. I did not know it was legal here because I've never researched it. But I have to tell you, it had a really interesting effect on me because while we weren't close, we were kind of allies in the building. We shared information, and I had just spoken to him. I was checking on him while he was in the hospital. So a lot of stuff could be happening around us, not to us, and how we process it is part of our evolution. I kind of respect his decision. He was not comfortable. He was not necessarily, because I asked him if this was life-threatening, and he kind of hummed and hawed. And I think it's because he was researching, on how to cross himself over. But technically, he was not in a life and death situation. He would have had to have a colostomy bag. I don't think he wanted to do that. Plus, he had lost his wife years prior, and I was under the impression he really missed her. So there was that new beginning for him, 28-degree Aquarius lunar eclipse. Solar eclipse. And he chose to have a new adventure and cross himself over. Crazy, kind of crazy. So that's how the eclipse affected me. Anybody have any weird stuff happening to them already? Because I got to tell you, this is bizarre. And I'm going to share one other little personal thing real quick because I'm so proud of myself. Look what I made. I made a loaf of olive bread, and it's sitting on the counter cooling right now. I've been into this bread thing, and I just started my sourdough starter a few days ago. I'm going to try making, this is a rustic loaf, not sourdough. What's happened, J-Dog? Share some of your experiences, because these eclipses have a 6-month influence, but often it's right within the first few days something intense can happen, and we don't always put it together. Because I'm sure that my neighbor did not know it was an eclipse that day. I'm sure that he just, made a decision. But to me, I saw the incredible, the transits and everything, just crazy. Hi, Georgia. Good to see you. Welcome to the room. So I think this week is going to be highly Well, that's very exciting. I'm really glad. That is an interesting coincidence, and that's a happy coincidence. So that's really great. I want to offer this because this week, and having the eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius, I don't know if you guys know this, but not only does Donald Trump have a 29-degree Leo rising, J.D. Vance has a Leo rising as well, 27 degrees. So both of them were affected by this eclipse, okay? In the sign of Aquarius. Oh, I just got chills everywhere. Melania Trump has her Venus at 28 degrees of Taurus. That squared this eclipse. Now, while all this is happening, the United States has Saturn and Neptune transiting over its IC, meaning it's transiting between its third and fourth house. And Pluto is conjunct within 2 degrees of the United States South Node, which is in Aquarius. Something's going to happen. I'm telling you, something's going to happen. I know there's a lot going on. Oh, the other thing that was interesting is Donald Trump has a 24-degree Taurus midheaven. And once you know the rising, you can, figure out the wheel. But the idea that it's 24 degrees was within 4 degrees squaring his midheaven, opposing his rising. And I didn't mention this, he has a 26-degree Mars in the 12th house of Leo. Wait. Are you literally saying to me that somebody tried to assassinate the president of the United States today that I have not seen on the news? Because I'm literally like, holy crap. I mean, like, this is violence. So yeah. Woo. Are you saying that, MK? Something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but with Mars involved, I think it involves at Mar-a-Lago again. Oh my God. Well, there it is right there. That's exactly, I'm looking at this is my notes. Holy crap. Well, I'll have to check that out when I get off the live. A 20-year-old got into the north area. That's very interesting. Holy crap. Now that would make me want to look where the Mercury is, because Mercury's younger people, I think. Well, let's talk about the transits and how they're going to affect you guys, because we have Venus and Mercury have been traveling pretty close to each other in Pisces. We know that Venus is exalted in Pisces. Mercury, and I'm a little plug for my Mercury retrograde video. I got to tell you, what a funny experience this last week has been, because I did a few videos in January and early February, and they did super well. And then the last 2 videos, like, Bear limped along, and I recognized that when I did the videos and they were getting traction, I started to reinvest in the numbers and then calculate my worth as to the numbers. And that's part of what's going on with this transit. With all the planets right now are asking us to surrender to a deeper truth of how are we calculating our value? How are we, Venus, our value, Mercury in Pisces. And this is where thoughts get murky, because Mercury's ruling earthly thoughts about the news, thoughts about information, education, just plugging along. Now Mercury is to slow down, swim through emotional waters, swim through the soul's emotional waters. I can't believe it's literally, I'm just so blown away. I did not look at the news. I was baking my bread. I was baking the bread. So I was not, astrology is so crazy. So Saturn moved 1 degree tomorrow. Up this whole week, Saturn and Neptune have been at 0 degrees. The actual exact conjunction. They've been floating back and forth, but they have not sat on that throne. And I literally think it's a throne because it's like a seat. It's a 0. This is super important because this is not going to happen and will not happen again for over 1,500 years. Mercury will be retrograde on the 26th. So Mercury isn't quite slowed down, but it's starting to slow down. But the key aspects for this week are the square between Mars and Uranus. Mars rules violence. Mars rules, anger. I wrote down, this feels like, what did I write down? Unexpected disruptions, anger, and explosions regarding historic patterns of disrespectful behaviors. And when I said disrespectful, I almost felt like it wasn't about, it was disrespectful in the way that universal disrespect. You know how when the deportations first started, there was a lot of concern about who's going to clean people's houses with all these deportations, and it was such a homogenization of a group of people and a pigeonhole. And that's what I think part of this is. Uranus in Taurus is wanting to break up those old things, wanting to, they need to clean their own houses. I clean my house. And you can tell sometimes. He had a gun and a gas can, and when they told him to drop it, he picked it up into a firing position and attempted to shoot Secret Service, but thankfully they beat him to the punch. So he died. The kid was killed. Wow, I can't even believe, MK. I'm so glad that you are on. Wow. I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm surprised Small Wildflowers hasn't shown up. He was unalived. Okay. I'm like, I know I do this for a living, but it still blows my mind because I literally was looking at the charts and thinking, oh my God, they're going to, something like that's going to happen, but you don't want to use those words. Oh, you know what else? Okay. I just noticed my other note. Donald Trump has an 8th house, Aries. It starts in Pisces, but it moves in Placidus. It moves into Aries. So in his 8th house is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So that's very interesting. Oh my goodness. Is your brother okay? It sounds like he's okay. I mean, breaking your ribs is not easy, but it's better than breaking your face or your neck or your spine. We'll pray for him, Sophia. I'm so sorry to hear about that. Okay. So what I was thinking, that the Mars and the, he's not okay because he's very active. Well, he'll get, the lungs will repair. He'll be able to. Oh my gosh. See, this is unexpected violence, unexpected weird stuff. Oh my goodness. That's that square. Okay. So rebellion against oppression, rebellion against what has been. Good morning, Small. Oh my God. I got to tell you, we have been chatting it up. I was talking about the United States. I was compelled this morning to look at the chart because I know Donald Trump's certain things in my head. And MK was telling us there was an assassination attempt today. And that's exactly and I looked at JD Vance. I looked at Melania Trump because she has, actually is a Leo rising too. Surprise, surprise. All these people hanging out together, having similar aspects. And the United States has things going on in its chart. So super, super crazy. One other thing I want to comment on is that Jupiter is stationed, and it's literally at 15 degrees now, and it's going to stay there for a while. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Oh, that little green emoji says a lot. I want to offer this because Jupiter in Cancer is making a sextile to the United States right now. And the sextile is to, or Pluto is making Pluto is making a conjunction to the south node of the United States. And at the same time, Pluto is making a quincunx to the United States Jupiter as well. And I think, and that's in Cancer, and it's in the 7th house. So I think that what we're going to do this week is we're going to see the environment around us starting to change. I think that, it could send a ripple effect, but I think it's going to affect our belief system. I think it's going to affect what we want for ourselves in the way of moving forward, the ideologies that we want to foster for ourselves. So while this is kind of sketchy times and feels a little like, God, everybody's going to such extremes, I want you to sort of feel source energy, angels, God, whatever you want to call it, around you, insulating you from this. You may be an observer of it, but you're a torchbearer for what's coming in the future. So not everything has to hit us personally as cuckoo, although it may feel like it. So by the end of the week on the 28th, Mercury will be retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces, and it'll be in an exact conjunction to Venus. I do think that's going to, I think what's going to happen is it's going to bring us to have really look and see where we are being honored by others, where we are feeling not only compassion, but how does the exchange of energy go? I think very much people are going to be, I don't want to say that, because, Pisces can be the victim, but we're looking for fair exchanges. And fair exchanges doesn't mean 50-50 all the time. What it means is that, when I'm at 70 and you're at 30, that somewhere the scales shift. And then you get the 70 and I'm in the 30, whatever that is. And I think that Mercury retrograde is going to bring clarity to our deeper truth. And it's also one of the videos I did that nobody's watching. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Because what I realized was it was because I started to divert back into the illusion that I'm only as valuable as the number of viewers. But that's not true, because if one viewer, if they hear something or something resonates with them, they could take that and they could be the one that carries a torch. It doesn't have to be me. So I get to remember, what are my real goals? Are my goals to be a YouTube star? No. Are my goals to be influential to you guys and to help you maneuver your lives? Yes. So that's going on a lot. And that's part of what I think when I say deception, when I talk about illusions and Pisces, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Where am I, misinterpreting myself? Where are things foggy? Where am I playing to maybe a more earthbound truth about myself versus a spiritual truth about myself? So that's, small. I really, because this week was intense for you too. You went through a lot of, your body literally went through an assault. And, you've got to, I guess, your body will level out, but I'm pretty sure that, it's a ramp up. So I pray for you every day. And I pray that you're getting food inside of you, good food and good nutrients. And now that that's done, you have a few months off to not be under that barrage. So guys, I want to offer one more last thing. Jupiter will be at 15 degrees until almost mid-March, to the 10th or the 11th, where, depending upon where you are in the world. So be mindful, because Jupiter is going to be in the sign of Cancer during the eclipse. And while they don't necessarily chat, because the next eclipse is in Virgo, there's something that's coming to me about Virgo enslavement, mental enslavement, rules, process, and Jupiter in Cancer representing my history again, how I grew up, the traditions, even the traditions of how my country rolls, So there is something happening that's going to, again, illuminate. I was thinking about this the other day. New moons are all about new things, but I'm starting to think that full moons are more that way, because they illuminate something for me. They bring something into my awareness that then gives me an opportunity. When I'm in the darkness of a new moon, it feels almost like it can be slightly fear-based, because I can't see how things are going to play out. So I think it's really not about endings and beginnings in a flat sense, but more about awarenesses and whether I'm standing in how is my faith. In the new moon, I'm really measuring my my energy, my vibration, my frequency. Things haven't manifested, but I trust they will. Things haven't manifested, I'm worried they won't. That feels like a new moon. A full moon illuminates the answer to that question and then gives me an opportunity to move forward. And you know what? The Four of Swords comes up. If it comes up today, it's when the warrior princess gets to rest and commune with God. All right. Welcome, JD. I'm so backwards. All right. Oh, okay. Let's go on to our readings. We'll start. We're ready to roll. Put my little... So my new little hobby is the bread baking and I'm just going to do, I know some of you saw, but I just have one more time because I just am so proud of myself. I want to show you my olive bread that I baked. I made the dough yesterday. I let it sit overnight because the recipe said that it would be more flavorful. And I made that today. I baked it. So fun. I gotta tell you, I think about, I looked at the ingredients on the bread. I got that Yucca app. Somebody, one of my friends from high school told me about it. And it's where you can go in the market and scan things and it tells you if they're good or bad for you and, where they are on the scale. And so many things were bad that I was like, and then I looked at the side of the bread and there's like this much ingredients. Well, that has maybe 6 ingredients, including garlic powder, onion powder, and olives, and then maybe 7, and then the bread itself. But I started to think I want to know what's going on into my food. I also made, that I surprised myself, stuffed shells yesterday. They turned out excellent. So I'm kind of, this is me learning to, my Taurus moon is being activated somehow. Hey, post it up. Welcome to the room. You're just in time for the readings. We're starting. But I want to really thank MK for being so knowing the news, because really validated what I was seeing in the chart. If you store, does it make it last longer if you store it that way? Oh, these stuff, I was shocked that they were so good, because lately everything I've been making has sucked. And I was like, oh, this isn't that good. This isn't that good. And yesterday was a good day. Okay. I'm going to get to business now because I'm, all about distractions all the time. No store up. Okay. Oh my goodness. For our Aquariuses. Wait, what's today? Today is technically Pisces. Wait, I have to look. Sorry. Where's my little app where it says current chart? The sun has entered Pisces. So we're starting with our Pisces, which makes me very excited for you, because look at your card. No, we're starting with Pisces. It's actually the 22nd, and that's, Aquarius is going to be last now. Look at this. This is the 9 of Cups. My Pisces friends, this is wish fulfillment. This is you can relax. There's so much love in this card. And, I want to offer this because each deck has its own vibration to me, and I choose them instinctually in the morning. Look at her face. She's owning this. This is a fierce energy. And I feel like there's also a certain amount of awareness emotionally and an ownership. She's got very much ownership. Let's see what Spirit's going to say this week. What wish fulfillment will happen for you? And happy birthday to all our early born Pisces. The North Node is creeping up on your sun or your rising or your moon. This goes by rising, this particular broadcast. So, and the North Node, I believe, is at about 8 degrees right now and has been there for a little bit. Oh, I've been thinking about cookie making, but I made cakes. I was making little mini cakes, and I felt like I was starting to get a little beefy this way, so I've shifted to the breads. Anyway. All right, our first angel for our Aquarius is to Bridget, looking deeper into a situation. The second is Xana, telling you you're protected. The third is Serena, which is about abundance, but also about surrender. And the final is Patience, but she's upside down. This is interesting because this is actually telling Pisces, if indeed for some reason well, let me finish. I'll do the other spread just to make sure that I'm on track. But what I think is going to happen is your wish will be fulfilled. Look deeper into the journey you're on. And maybe you don't need to listen to anybody else. Maybe you know enough already and it's just about implementation, or about, taking that first step. I bought the sourdough yeast starter like a week ago, but I was intimidated. The minute, what's so weird about technology right now? Is the minute you look at anything on any one of your devices, it starts to stalk you. You're like, I didn't give them my email. I didn't, I was looking at this on this device, and all of a sudden now this social media platform is just pummeling me. How does that happen? That's so weird. The North Node in the 12th house would mean that you're stretching for transcendence. You're stretching for more empathy. It depends on the house, like what the house structure is. But traditionally, Pisces being the 12th house, it's definitely transcendence, meaning coming from the physical and being aware of the soul within, and then surrendering to that. Pisces, if you're a Pisces, that would be in your 8th house, maybe your 9th house, depending upon, the degree in Placidus. So you'd be transforming yourself. Your North Node would be stretching to allow yourself to rely on other people more, but still have the discernment of listening to your soul's voice. Because if the North Node is in Pisces, then you're in the 8th house. That would make Virgo the 2nd house. That makes sense for a Leo rising. And this South Node would be that you've depended too much on yourself in the past, too much earthbound energy, maybe even overly worrying about resources. And the Pisces energy would be transcending that in the sense of understanding that you have a connection to God and the angels and source energy, and having that come back in. Okay, sorry, Pisces, I just drifted off into Sophia's chart. If you'd like to get a personal reading, give me a ring. My number is in the description. Bridget is saying to look deeper in your partnerships. That's interesting. Xana is about protection, and then there's the eagle. This is all good for my Pisces. Serena is being joined by the restriction card, which is an interesting energy. And finally, the patience card is being joined by the letting go card. Okay, to me, this is about Pisces looking deeper into the people that they're interacting with, the energies they're interacting with. The partnership card, not everybody has a partner, but we have a viewpoint of partnership. We have an experience that gives us a perspective. If indeed you have that Piscean tendency to be overly compassionate, or you get drug addicts. The people who are great in bed, but they can't make a dime. This can happen in an out of balance Piscean energy, that addiction, that escapism, that, the world is too harsh. So if your wish will be fulfilled, but there's a part of you that gets to be more intentional. Now, I think that's Mercury retrograding in your first, potentially 12th house. Now, Xana and the eagle together is absolutely saying you're being protected while you walk through this transitional period of taking your power back, your voice back. It's interesting to me, in the angels' advice is the restriction card and Serena. And I almost feel like this is kind of, on some level, might feel counterintuitive, like I can't feel serenity. But to me, there's something about discernment here. Do I feel restricted in this partnership that they're talking about, or do I feel serene in it? So I have to discern something, because patience is upside down. You already have all the information you need. Now this is about, really, the letting go card is about incorporating wisdom. I have a Taurus moon in the first house. I do not forget. And I have a huge abacus. I am not using the abacus to hold people, hostage of their bad behaviors, but I am using it to calculate whether they shift or not and if I can deal with it. Because I can deal with a certain amount of imbalance, but if a person just sits on their imbalance, like, that's just who I am, and if you don't like it, too bad. I don't like it. I don't want to be involved. That's part of what Pisces is doing. And that is, to me, opens up a huge door. So I think that this week, if there is spiky energy, we look at Aquarius is technically your 12th house. If Mars is hitting something there and, stoking something up, it could very well be because there's an awakening. If you want your wish fulfilled, then looking deeper into how you're interacting or how you're processing that interaction. And then, because oftentimes the signs that tend to acquiesce to a bigger voice, more power, don't understand how much power they have, because they don't self-protect or self-care. And when they do, there's a good possibility the other party would, wake up a little bit. But when you're constantly nurturing somebody else, they tend to, take that for granted, whether they recognize it or not. Okay. And happy birthday to your Pisces. It's your solar return. And if your birthday is around eclipse time, this is a very powerful period of time for you for transformation. Okay. Onward and upward, as I say often. Onto our our Aries. Okay, let's do this in order. Maybe I need a little more coffee. Okay, Aries. This is such an Aries energy. The Five of Swords. Literally contempt, anger. You win, but you don't win. Now Mars is in the picture. Mars is big in the picture this week in those anaretic degrees of Aquarius, where I am actually, every time you get into those late degrees, 25 degrees and up, you're being tasked to be intentional and aware about how you're using your energy. With Mars technically in Aquarius and Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius in Taurus, this could be, I really want to caution people, Aries people, with family dynamics right now, right? Just be aware that, there could be a rub up against, and how do you want to deal with it? You may not want to put your sword you may want to just relax. Thank you, DJ. That's so generous of you. Let's see what Spirit has to say, because you could win the fight, but you won't win the war, or you won't feel good about it. Now, I personally had an upset with a friend of 50 years. I got to tell you, I love this person, but they're grating on my last nerve, because they don't even recognize they're in some weird panic. They're operating like whack-a-mole, in my opinion, and they put me in the mix a couple times. And I have nothing to do with it. Like, I live 100 miles away, but for some reason, and I don't like it. And their response was very unaccountable, to be honest with you. And they made me sound like I was crazy. And I didn't like that. And I got to tell you, this is exactly the Five of Swords, because this argument wasn't really even an argument. It was just like, I expressed myself and this person just discounted me. And I don't think I'm going to play that way. And I don't know how many decades we may have of history. I'm not in that vibration anymore. Aries, be mindful, because if people want to pigeonhole you as the angry one, the resentful one, the one that won't let it go, you get to decide if you own that. Because if there's an argument, you don't have to be there. Chantal is upside down in the foundational position. Then we have Yvonne, which is about vulnerability. Chantal's about love and romance. Yvonne is about vulnerability. Vanessa's in the angel's advice, which is about faith or fear and how you'll make your decisions. And Isabella is upside down in the final position. So it's not time to take action about something. It's not easy when you're pre-wired to be a warrior. And I got to tell you, I think Aquarius is a warrior as well. We're looking at you being used to reacting to something, like you almost are trained on a military level to be able to react to a threat. And this is where I think Spirit is actually saying, before you take action, make sure you're not reacting. Again, we're looking at a Mercury retrograde, old shit coming back. We're looking at Saturn and Neptune on the world axis of I'm recreating myself. So a lot of stuff you could find people literally just discounting who you are. Let's see where Chantal, and the cat. This is definitely about healthy boundaries with people that you love and you do not want the relationships to completely die. I literally think that. I can walk away from certain things. I have to tell you, I can only take so much. And when people discount me, something clicks in my head. And I just go, you know what? You don't get it. You'll never get it. And I can't bang up against this anymore. That could very much happen. Because Chantal being reversed, there's something that is not thriving. There's something within relationships that is not an even exchange of energy, not even close. And the cat is talking about healthy boundaries. Now, Yvonne is about being vulnerable, and the Lady of the Lake is joining Yvonne. This is an interesting dynamic, and I have to show you the picture because she has a war between her emotions and her head. Sometimes, because this is actually being vulnerable to your deeper truth. And I think sometimes that deeper truth is, not all Aries is wired the same. If you have a stellium in Aries, you are going to be a hothead, okay? And you're going to have to work very hard to manage that energy, especially if it's in your first house. But then there are Aries that are not hotheads, but can have occasional upsets that label them. Somewhere here, I feel like Aries is being labeled, and you may be like, I don't want to do this. That's a Uranus in Taurus. Vanessa's being joined by the risk card, standing up for yourself. Literally, I feel like this is the thing. The Lady of the Lake is holding this sword. That couldn't be more Aryan, but here she's a hero. This guy is his arrow is pointed down. He's not taking aim. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Stephen. I'm so sorry. Prayers for your mom. Next week is also the lunar eclipse on the 3rd, 12 degrees Virgo. Check out the video. I haven't done it yet. All right, Isabella. Okay, this is interesting because Isabella is saying that the timing is right, but it's upside down. So the timing is not right. And yet Isaiah is here saying it's time to give birth to new ideas. This is a gestation period. The new idea I want to offer for my Aries is that however you feel labeled, that feels like it has some truth, but it is not the entirety of who you are. Claim that. Allow Neptune and Saturn that have entered your first house or potentially your 12th house to bring a sense of spiritual creativity to you and build upon that. And if there has been history where others refuse to allow or refuse to acknowledge or just can't see your own evolution, it isn't about convincing them. It's about putting your sword down and walking towards what is you. All right. That's it for Aries today. This is a very, the stars, Stephen, you weren't here, but my neighbor unalived himself through medical intervention after being in the hospital for 3 weeks. Unexpectedly, I didn't know he was going to do that on the day of the eclipse. Thank you, Georgia. That's so generous. Thank you so much. This is a time, and I want to honor this because sometimes, Hi, Pixie. You're right at the beginning. We've only done 2 signs so far. I want to offer this because this really is like when I've mentioned many times, this is a polarizing time, and there are souls that will leave because they are not vibrationally, physically aligned to what we're walking through right now. They're literally our human DNA feels like it's changing. And if you think about the things that are floating through the airwaves, that weren't here 100 years ago, so it's not hard to fathom it. And somebody made a comment, I can't remember who it was, on one of my, I talked about Chat GPT, and they made a comment about how much power or water or energy these AI processing centers use. And this is another thing that was so interesting. Then I start getting like news reports on my feed about energy consumption of AI processing centers. Everything is following us around. I feel sorry for people that are like addicted to scary stuff on the internet because somebody's watching me, man. There's no anonymity anymore. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, the Knight of Cups. I heard Spirit say, Taurus, it's your move. Let's see what that means. I've looked at this deck a couple of times over the last year or so, and today it's really hitting me that the what I believe is the king has been knocked over. I don't know if you can see. Looks like this could be the queen, the white. I don't know. And then there's it's a white character, but it has the black top. So it makes me think the king has been knocked over. And look at the shell in his hand. It's purple. Something is telling me that Taurus, there's something, the king representing an old hierarchy, okay? Uranus is going through your first house, more than likely, unless you're very late, well, even if you're a late degree Taurus rising, which actually makes you much more Geminian, because there's something about that square to Mars and this Knight of Cups, it's saying it's time to ride away from the old story. That old regime is gone. Now it's time to rewrite the story. Let's see what Spirit has to say. And when I think about the old regime for Taurus, it's again, there is a steadiness to the sign, but the steadiness is an endurance of what has been. And if what has been is out of balance or isn't making you feel loved, it's that shell is interesting to me because where's the shell come in? It's almost like a shell is from the ocean, but yet it's a hard substance. Somehow I'm becoming emotionally more connected to what I want. The purple color is my third eye, and it's kind of making me feel like if you're not rowing in my boat of happiness, then you're not my ally. And I historically have maybe ignored those things, and I'm not ignoring them anymore. This guy feels a little determined to claim himself. First angel is Athena, the angel of power. It's safe for you to powerfully assert yourself. Know that you can do this in a loving way. Then we have Aurora saying you're flying high right now. This may not feel like a flying high situation. Again, we've got a square between Uranus and Mars. Plus, there was a whole stellium of planets that were going through Aquarius that would have squared Taurus. And in that square, it would have created tension regardless of what planets. There could be no planets in that house in your chart, and yet it would be affecting the environment. Then we have, in the angel's advice, Akasha, the teacher, but she's upside down. And then in the final position, we have Desiree, but she's upside down. So conditions are safe for you to be lovingly powerful, but there is a part of it where you're going to have to connect to what is really your truth. And I want to offer this when I say your truth, because Sometimes when we are in a challenge with another person, or we're exercising healthy boundaries, there's an inadvertent defensiveness to it. Like you got to make everything like a little bit bigger. Like, well, you did this. And I want to offer this. You don't need to make it any bigger. It is what it is. And you're feeling, and it's all right for you to feel the way you feel. And you may just have had it up to here with something, you're like, I'm done with that now. Stephen, you're in your middle of your nodal return. Ah, very interesting. Is it a reverse return or an actual, like your North Node is having a North Node return? That's significant. It's karmic things coming through. All right, Athena is being joined by the hawk, which is about omens, and it's about signs and messages from the other side. Then we have the serpent, knowledge and healing, joining Aurora, being upside down. Akasha is being joined by the cat. The cat is about independence and healthy boundaries. Hey, Outer Spice. And then finally, the owl. Okay, the owl and the hawk to me are like two sides of one coin, because the owl represents the nighttime vision and the hawk represents the daytime vision. I feel like for my Tauruses right now, there have been signs and omens for you to assert yourself into a place that allows old, stale, stubborn structures to be realigned. And in that, I feel like you may not feel like you're flying high right now. It may feel actually slightly arduous for you, because you want to settle in. You want to, like, if you're going to shift something, you want to shift it and then have it be something what it is. I understand it gives me resources, it's dependable. But the serpent is here, which is really kind of saying that this is a process for me. I'm seeing the snake shedding a skin. It's not like throwing the skin off. I have to give way to the process. And then when I see the spiritual teacher upside down, this isn't about you trying to counsel other people. It's the opposite, actually. It's about being aware of people that tether you to an old version of yourself, or where you get stuck, where you get into that. You don't even realize that you're doing the same thing over and over again, or you're doing something in a way that you're perceiving it in the same way. I have to work hard to bring in money. I have to keep my mouth shut and not speak if I'm unhappy in a relationship. These underbellies. Remember, we've got Mercury that is actually trining your house in Pisces. And it's retrograding. So where there have been illusions or deceptions that I don't have enough value for somebody to honor what I feel, again, the Knight of Cups, and to allow me that space. Because the owl is here offering the delineation between deception and wisdom, literally. That makes such sense to me, because as Mercury is going through what would be in whole sign, your 11th house, your hopes and your dreams, with Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable, they're not favorable until you make this discernment, until you connect to the signs and the omens that you will be safe, you will have the resources, you will be able to achieve what you want. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve safety and security, especially in such an unstable world right now. Okay, I think that's it for Taurus. Let's move on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We are headed in. Oh, you're having a North Node return. So your dreams and your hopes are being restoked. And you're having that, South Node in Virgo is really kind of doing the, all right, this is the second time around, maybe third time, again, depending on how old you are. And because it's more than once every 18 years. It's like once every 36 years, because I think it takes 18 years to get around the Zodiac, and then they switch signs and it goes reverse. So really stretching for your connection to spirit, having faith, allowing yourself the privilege of compassion to self. Okay, on to our Geminis. And we have the 8 of Wands upside down. Well, let's see. Something, when the Eight of Wands shows up, traditionally that represents news, information, or conclusions. Upside down, there would be no information. There would be no conclusion. There would be no ending just yet. Let's see where we're going for our Geminis. $56, that's a master number of 11, right? It reduces down to an 11. Gives you an opportunity to be a master of your thought. And the mastery is not being able to do the same thing. Oh, Miss Lulu is over here in the sunshine taking a nap. I will, after we do Gemini, I will, my Cancer people will understand that I'll show you, give you a little look. She had her first professional haircut this week. Gemini, Astera saying to reach for the stars with your desires. Archangel Raphael is upside down, so somewhere there is still some sort of balancing that gets to come into play for you, Gemini. Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this healing, this balancing that Archangel Raphael is offering. And then Fiona is offering assistance from the other side through an epiphany. It seems lately to me that when I'm attempting to, I'm being pummeled by the stars as well. The South Node, my personal South Node is being transited by Neptune and Saturn. Pluto is making positive aspects, but aspects nonetheless, really ripping stuff up. And Jupiter's sitting on my IC. Every time I attempt to be productive, I'm getting really mixed results. So I kind of earlier in the broadcast said that some of my videos are getting like 10,000 views, or one at least, and the others are getting kind of thousands of views. And then the ones I produced over the last week are just dismal. And I'm saying this because when I'm processing this, I can hear Spirit saying, where's your perception at? Are you only valuable if you get the numbers? Or is the information valuable if only a couple hundred people watch it? And I know what the answer is. And I feel like that's what's going on with Gemini. That's why I'm bringing this up, because the Eight of Wands being upside down is something's not ending. There's no information. There's no conclusion. So now Astera is saying you have to reach for the stars and risk what it is you want, and risk the focus of actually thinking about it. And what do I pull? The Focus card, because that's where if there's no healing, then you're still wobbling. Boop, 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 boop. And I almost want to say to Gemini, pick a lane. Doesn't matter whether you succeed or not, because you are eternally creating. So if you pick a lane and it doesn't work out, change lanes. No harm, no foul. You don't have to know the actual end game. Your planet is going retrograde. Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for you to be a leader in your own life. And I want to offer this again, because Gemini is not incapable of making a decision, but they do a lot of natural deliberation, okay? And I think within that deliberation, and it would probably depend on your natal sign, how intense, wherever Mercury is, that is. Now it's time to contemplate more about the win than the loss. That's where I'm going. Fiona is talking, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And the Baird is about music, poetry, history, and the enchantment of storytelling. So for me, that's very Geminian. Gemini tells stories. But here, this is about what you want to foster in your life, what you want to, and this is the other thing. It might be even risking joy. Like, I don't want to do anything. I want to bake olive bread all day. I want to try making shells. It could be something that seems almost mundane, because what I feel like is that this is about a process of discernment. This is about how much am I willing to risk to live the life I want to live? Am I connected to that actual life, or am I somehow caught up in whatever my everyday routines are? I get to, in the way of the Stag and Isabella, be a leader for what I want. And then Fiona is saying, as you connect, inspirations will come to you. This is the one great thing about, astrology. And yet, I mean, I know my transits. I'm not fighting them. I'm not surrendering to them. I'm not doing anything because they're long ass transits. But at the same time, I know I can only fight the headwind so much, right? And if you got a big headwind, you just have to be steady and do 1 foot at a time. That's what this is about. So ultimately, it's about a risk for you reaching for that brass ring. Okay, let's get the Looster and show you how pretty she looks with her little haircut. She might look slightly bald since you saw her last, but it's supposed to last a couple of months because I like giving her a bath, but I can't cut her hair or trim her nails. All right, where is she? Come here, girly. Everybody wants to say hi. Come here. Here she is. Our little girl. Look in the camera. Look right over there. Yeah. And let everyone see your little face. Yesterday, we were together for 4 months. And it's such a weird feeling. Oh, good girl. Look at you looking right into the camera. Good girl. I love her. It's a weird feeling because, you know, when I remember that she's been with me for 4 months, I also remember Lucky's been gone for 4.5. And she's done a couple things lately that really remind me of Lucky. Lucky used to fall, like when I would go get the leash to go on a walk, I would make him jump up on the bed. And then, so I didn't have to bend over and put his apparatus on, his harness on. And when I do this with her, she usually would go down like this, flat, like, you know, but the last couple of days she rolled over on her back, which is what Lucky does. She does fit in right here. And I really love her so very much. So anyway, all right. So we're going to get back to our readings. Say bye-bye, Lou. Bye-bye. I'll see you later. I'm going to go lay in the sun some more. Oh. Yeah, she really is a sweetie. And she is I think she's an EMT. Because if I make any bodily sounds, like she jumps up. I had a client the other day and I was fake sneezing and she was jumping up on the chair to see if I was okay. It was so cute. All right. We are on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The 5 of Cups is for you, but it's upside down. This is actually good. Good is relative, but the 5 of Cups is a cup of sorrow. It's where I'm focused in on what I've lost, not what I still have. When it's upside down, this is muted. It's more like I'm on the back side of that. I'm starting to feel myself coming back online, as they say. I don't know who says it. Maybe they say it. But I'm not in the depths of sorrow. I'm not in the depths of grief. It's also a card of separation. So you might even be feeling more connected. That's your sun. His Mercury is in the 6th house of Cancer. So his sun sign is Gemini. His rising is not. If his Mercury is in Cancer in the 6th house, his rising sign, oh God, I have to think now. I have to back up. 12th is Capricorn, so it'd have to be, he's an Aquarius rising. Because if he's an Aquarius rising, depending upon the degree of that, he's feeling Pluto's transit. And that would have been Pluto going through his 12th house, and he would have been breaking up old karma, an old crap. Thanks for asking to see her. She is really something, I tell you. Okay. Our first angel for Cancer is the Patience card, which is about observation, studying, and learning. Archangel Gabriel is about security and how you think. Caressa is upside down. She's about ending. So something's not ending. And then Francesca is also upside down, which would be, it's time, you're starting to come out of some sort of fog, but be patient with yourself because you're still in the process. It's not completely, it's not completed. He could very well be a Capricorn, depending upon, Placidus, the way the house structure is. That could make Cancer his 6th house or his 7th. Oh, he's right in the middle. So if he's a Capricorn rising, Georgia, that means that Cancer is technically his 7th house, probably. And that Jupiter is sitting right in his 7th house, which is higher education and partnership with institutions of higher education. And he's going back to college. Isn't that interesting? Okay. And the retrograde will be over soon, and Jupiter will be moving forward, and it will go over that point for him. Okay. Patience for my Cancers is being joined by the mystery card, which is choice. Archangel Gabriel is asking you to see where your mind is focused. Caressa is saying, it's interesting because, and I want to offer this because if indeed anybody has lost someone that they love, I think I mentioned earlier that, I've gone through a series of losses, people crossing over, my pets. It doesn't mean the relationship has ended. Okay. All right, Cancer. This is what Spirit is saying for you this week. Be patient with thyself because you're going through a process of illumination. Somewhere that Jupiter in your 1st house, potentially 12th house, potentially 2nd house, again, where, however the pie is cut, is opening up an awareness for you of where you've been, what you have experienced, and maybe even a sense of loss. But now maybe there's the potential that you're coming, like, this is a weird thing. I lost Lucky, and I'm not happy that I lost him, but I am so grateful to have Lulu. She is a very different energy. And at this point in my life, whether I knew it or not, I needed some sort of more emotive dynamic. Lucky was emotive, but he was not emotive like relationally. He was a very loving dog, but he was not like, she's like a Klingon, kiss your face, are you okay, dog? And he was like, you got this, you got this. And I didn't know that, because patience and the mystery card is really about observing your own transformation, paying attention to what you've learned, what you've paid, what you've walked through. The focus here is on your mind and your thoughts and how you're communicating. And Spirit's not judging how you're thinking. It's just bringing into your awareness that that's part of your co-creation, because something is not ending and there is an eternal partnership with Spirit, whether or not you are aware of that. And if for some reason I'm feeling Cancer, if you have someone who crossed over, they're not gone. They've transformed. And there's a part of you, when I say transformed, I think of Einstein's energy never dies. So you can still feel connected, because the B card is very interesting. It's about good luck. It's about my being energy. And it would infer that you're not feeling as negative. You might be actually even starting to open up to connect to a bigger thought. But be mindful of how that, like, nurture that. Continue to study, to open up, to allow, when you, Cancer, were experiencing Pluto's opposition, it would have brought something outside of yourself that would have made you very, very aware of the fragility of certain situations, the fragility of life, the fragility of, love, harmony, peace, whatever those 7th house basic energies are. And, you could still on some level be aware of it, but it's not happening now. Now we're in the back 9 and you're kind of processing it from an evolutionary place. Remember that and then stand in that energy. And honor it, I guess, is what I hear Spirit saying. Honor that part of yourself. Don't just skate over it and on to the next thing. Okay. Let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. You know what's really weird? I don't see the clock today. Like, it usually tells me how long I've been talking, and it isn't doing that today. I wonder why. Well, everything's changing all over the place. Trying to keep this down to an hour and a half. I'm not very good at that. Okay. The 9 of Wands. This is a card of guarding myself. I've been through the wars. I still remember the wounds, and I don't quite feel 100% protected. Let's see what's going on here. Now, when we're talking about, Uranus and Taurus and potential, Mars in Aquarius, that affects the fixed signs. It affects Leo in opposition, and then it affects Uranus affects in square. So there could be, you've been through some, well, let me look and see. Because I'm getting this feeling that it's like, right now it's about processing mentally what we've walked through and not emotionally. It almost feels like I have to come up a little bit and start to recognize patterns. And in the pattern, it doesn't have to be a pattern that's like every day is the same shit. It could be a pattern that doesn't reveal itself often, but it periodically, and that periodic pattern reveal is interrupting something. It's making you not feel completely safe. Our first angel is Desiree, and she's upside down, which means conditions are favorable. Rosetta is upside down. This is about your inner child. We have the Patience card, which is, again, about studying and gathering information and being kind of an observant student. And then Layla is about spending time in nature with God and the angels. So maybe what this is talking about is the challenge. Well, let me finish the spread, because right now it would look like you might be hanging on to something. That's a little bit of the challenge of the fixed signs, that they don't shift easily. And if you've been hanging on, something that you're guarding from the past, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to live through that again. Desiree is being joined by the dragon, power and strength, calm, power and strength. Then we have Rosetta being joined by the goblin. Patience is being joined by the high priestess. And then finally, Layla is being joined by the novice. This is about a new beginning, but it's about the awareness for Leo about, am I building the new beginning in some sort of opposition to the past? I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. Because with Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable, they are favorable now. You don't need to guard yourself. You don't need to focus in on what has been before. And here, what's interrupting your new beginning is this ego card. It's like there's a part of you that can't forget how you've been wounded, and you're not connecting to the inner child, the innocence of an inner child. Dogs are kind of funny, because you can get mad at them and they just let it go. They live in the present. It's rather than saying let it go, I would prefer to say they live in the present. This might be a call. The obstacle and the opportunity is that your inner child doesn't want to feel those ego bruises anymore. And kind of now it's your opportunity to really kind of go into discernment mode, go into, what I find oftentimes is that people, especially right now, their hidden patterns are showing up. Like there's someone in my life who's extremely unassuming, but when they approach me, it's always like I'm in a deficit. Are you okay? Is everything okay? I'm like, why wouldn't everything be okay? And then, I ignored that for a while, and I realized that they have to be a hero. They have to be the person who's always got their shit together and everyone around them is a mess. And I recognize that's a way of hiding. Okay. Because what I'm trying to say for my Leos is that you don't need to guard yourself anymore, that you have the power and the strength of discernment. And if somebody is triggering your ego, let your inner child listen more clearly or intently and discern, because you could be inadvertently the mirror of their projection, because you're being offered a new beginning. And this is about this is the new beginning. Okay, this is the Baird. The new beginning is something that you skill without practice, practicing being powerful, but without having to throng, without having to guard yourself. It's more like, you know what? That's your monkey. That's your circus. It's not mine. And while I played at that circus and I went there on a Saturday and I got popcorn and cotton candy, I don't want to be part of that circus anymore, because that's what Spirit is offering for my Leos. Really to sit into nature and contemplate, what do I really want? And sometimes when we get caught up in certain situations, and with a Pluto opposition, it's going to bring up and erupt the underbelly of what's been out of balance for you when it comes to your peace, your harmony, and your sense of balance. Again, this is not about exterminating or rejecting or eliminating people in your life. It's about how much you let them affect you with their opinion and their energy. Because there are people and if we think about it, there are people that can, act out and we just don't care. They don't really affect us. We still have a certain affection for them, but they're not. And I think that's part of when I say they're not, I mean, they're not truly on the inner circle of your heart. They're just could potentially be part of the audience. And if for some reason you have been bleeding those lines, I almost feel like what Spirit is saying is the Nine of Wands is like, if you think about the fixed signs, sometimes we hold on to things because they're just familiar. They may not even be in balance, but they're the coyote that I know how to guard myself against, and I think Spirit is kind of saying you don't need to really do that anymore. You already have that down pat. You just get to focus in on what you want and move that story forward. Yes, I've been getting that. And it's kind of funny to me because up until now, I've been sort of laughing it off, but actually it's kind of gotten in my face right now. Like if that's what you see and you project onto me, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm too old. I'm too tired. And your transits are getting in your way. And I'm not, I can't tell these people these kind of things. They don't understand it. But whatever. Okay, Virgo, are you ready? Ooh, here we go. Oh my gosh, there's our Uranus square to Mars. So many things are, it's going to be a very tense week. Don't walk into the fray. Don't flip the guy off on the road. Don't go into your boss this week to try to get a raise. Wait until the waters have cleared, because especially Virgo, this is not a fun energy. This is literally a heartbreak energy, a feeling of betrayal, a feeling of being left out, hung to dry, alone. It's not a fun feeling. Right now, the South Node is on my Venus and it's on my Pluto. It's heading to a more exact Pluto degree. And I've thought a lot about how could this play out, and it's part of when I look at the numbers on my YouTube. Will I let the numbers control me? Will I let my fifth house and part of my fourth house is Virgonian, maybe a little of my sixth house, just a tad. Because this Three of Swords is really, well, let me go, because there's a part of me energetically that's feeling like if you've been giving yourself and giving yourself and giving yourself to a boss, a situation, if you've been dutiful to that situation beyond balance, then you might be experiencing a heartbreak because Spirit is breaking up that dynamic. And even though it's felt safe to you on some level because you knew where you were going or you knew how it would play out or you felt the trajectory, it may not have truly been aligned to what you are and what you want. And that's why there's something very funky here. Okay, there's Maya, schooling and education. You hear news that breaks your heart. You don't feel protected. You're losing a little bit of faith. That's Vanessa and Xana upside down. And the final position is Daniel, the angel of history and partnerships. That makes very much sense to me. It also makes sense to me because if you're a Virgo rising, Pisces is your seventh house, which makes Aquarius your sixth house. And this could feel like it comes from work. or how you're making money of some kind. It doesn't necessarily feel personal to me. Daniel is the angel of marriage, but he's the angel of history in relationships. And I don't think that this just doesn't feel like it's an intimate relationship to me, even though it's the Three of Swords. It feels somehow, it's that South Node doing something in your first house, trying to break up criticism, over processing something, over analyzing something, over worrying, or over dedication to another individual that is not reciprocal. Maya is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, which is a deep truth, an absolute truth, and responsibility for that truth. The novice is here offering an unstable new beginning. The Vanessa is being joined by the partnership card. That's very interesting. Vanessa's upside down. And then the mystery card. Okay. With Maya being about schooling and education, and the Lady of the Lake being about a deeper truth, there could be. Well, I want to offer this because the Virgo stellium is about, if you have a stellium in Virgo, you are pre-wired to enslave yourself to a process. And it's about discerning that process. Is it actually working for me? Or do I feel taken advantage of? Virgo rules the sign of slavery. How am I in service to other people? Now, what I've been talking about a long time about the Virgo lesson, if you want to call it a lesson, is that Virgo is not about leaving the fifth house of Leo and abandoning the fun and my talents and my wanting to be on the stage. It's actually the opposite. It's about taking all of that and transferring it into service for others. So when people see you enjoy your job and thrive, you are of service to them. It's not about you doing what they want to do, but the human structure has completely rewritten that. So here, this is all about an education of your deeper truth. And that might make you feel heartbroken a little bit, because there could be this, why have I wasted all this time? You didn't waste any time. It was part of the process. Because Xana is saying that the things from the past are not in the past, but there is an opportunity for a new beginning. But part of it is Virgo re-engaging with the North Node, okay, in Pisces. Your faith in what you cannot see is waning. And that's where there's a little part of you that gets to re-engage that, to understand that everything I build comes from a soul level. Because the mystery card and Daniel is actually a choice to discern the history, discern the pattern, discern the process. And in that discernment, it's a piece of knowledge. It's not a criticism. It's not, oh no, I've been doing it wrong the whole time. That's not about that. It's the opposite. It took me this long to wake up, because this does feel a little bit difficult to me, a little bit. And it would be, honestly, if you go into Virgo, self-criticism and self-judgment as a result of whatever this week brings up for you, or whatever the influence of this, we have a 12-degree Virgo eclipse coming on the 3rd. It's a full moon eclipse. Something will be illuminated, and you probably can smell some of that now. So rather than falling into a pattern, this is an opportunity to say, what is that pattern? I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. It is a crazy world. And I think the thing about it is not that the world is crazy. It's just that we have so much access to the information about crazy. Because I do believe there's been crazy and terrible things that have happened throughout history. Some of them are more atrocious than things that are going on now. And some of them are not. But humans by nature don't change when things don't get rocky. When things are content, they just stay status quo. All right, on to our Libras. The star. The star is faith. It's interesting too, because Spica is part of the Libra energy, and Spica is the voice of angels. When I see this deck, there's something about this woman and her garb. The wind is blowing, It almost feels like she's got either an wind within air under her clothing. She's in a sense of ritual and honoring. She's got the elements, fire. She's got earth represented by plants. She's got a little bowl of water, and she's got stone here. So, and there's a sense of melancholy here in this energy, in this particular deck when it comes to the star. So there's a feeling that her faith might be waning a bit, and so she's trying to recalibrate herself by going back to basics. Well, that's so funny, Stephen, because that intercepted energy of Leo would really literally, like, it squeezes it a little bit. It makes it unseen, and it has to sort of mature over time. It would also make you have an intercepted Aquarian energy in the third house, because the axis is going to mirror itself. A lot of people have Libra in Pluto. It's generational, but I think that Libra and Pluto generation is here to not focus in on, dominant partnerships. It's about the underbelly of peace, harmony, and balance. Libra will be the sign that won't argue. I'm not going to confront that. I don't want to go there. I know it's going to be a nightmare. So it can slowly suffer, which it slowly comes out of balance. It's about learning and deciphering how to allow whatever Pluto's underbelly that comes up, and then rising like the phoenix over it. So I'm rising like the phoenix in understanding that balance is sort of a choice of perception. And if I'm ignoring that perception, I'm not actually standing in balance. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's also, for me, it's about cooperation. It's about the give and take, because sometimes disruption actually is good. It's divine. It wakes us up. And I think that that's something that Pluto could foster in Libra. I have Pluto in Virgo. So I'm probably 20 years older than you, or 15 years older than you, at least 10 years older than you. And I think that generation was here to identify where the mind enslaves us. South node in Libra, North node in Aries. So you're here, J-Dog. You're used to partnerships. You're used to cooperation. Your North node in Aries would indicate that you're stretching for a more independent, adventurous, and me as the hero energy. All right, Libra. The first angel is Crystal. They have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. Francesca is upside down. Francesca is about negativity. What are you visualizing? Opal is about being an angel of God, a child of God. And then Fiona is upside down. (1975). I'm thinking that Pluto was in Scorpio, maybe. I don't recall. I could probably look it up. I know if you're born in 1975, you have you have Chiron in Aries. So that's the wound of self. Some other aspects. No, Pluto was in Libra in 19. Was it? I just got to look real quick. Now you got me thinking. Got me using my brain. Hold on. Let me check. I know exactly where to look to see where that is. Pluto was, dun, 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 dun. Pluto was in Libra, well into Libra. Okay. All right, Libra. Crystal is being joined by the goblin. Wow. Francesca's upside down. She represents a desire. What are you visualizing? That's what she really talks about. The focus card goes with that. So something about your focus is upside down. The remedy, honestly, is connection to spirit. That's where your peace will come from. And finally, we have the B card. Okay, I want to offer this. When I look at this for my Libras, there's something that they want that has not manifested. The star is a card that represents the future. It represents Aquarius. It represents a traversing between, in the normal Rider-Waite deck, you see a woman who's naked, okay? And she's got one foot on land and one foot in the water. And she's completely vulnerable to her desires and her dreams. Here, with this particular deck, we're looking at a potential where those dreams and desires have not been fully realized. And now it's about going back to ritual, prayer work, meditation, being mindful of where my focus is. Crystal is saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon, but your ego might be tired. The Libra energy is squared by Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So that can be exhausting. Libra just experienced a Pluto square, late Libra. Oh, exhausting. Because Francesca is literally saying, what do you desire right now? Negativity will block your progress. And here's the focus card. So to me, this is just like having an awareness, and it goes back to the star. And when I say this, I want to offer it this way. Spirit, I'm having a real hard time anchoring into my faith. Everything around me is just making me so crazy and tired. And I feel a little hopeless. I need help, because Spirit is here to comfort you and to protect you. And that's where your harmony will feel. That's where your connection will feel. When I started to look at the things that were happening in the news and trending and all the disruption, and Spirit said, these are divine disruptions. It resonated with me. It made sense. It's those old sayings like, you can't make an omelet till you crack a few eggs, and that's what we're doing. We're cracking the eggs, because Fiona is upside down. And this would indicate that Libra, you haven't been able to hear Spirit's voice. You're not feeling inspired. And now the B card is saying that's where your victory will come. So what I mean that the victory is, I don't understand this moment, but I do understand there's something that will help create balance. There's something here that will foster a bigger picture. My job is to stay in alignment to that. This for Libra this week, it's really about sort of discernment between your faith and your fear. Does my faith, stand tall? Does my fear eclipse it? And if I'm really fearful, what am I fearful of? Because if you look at what am I fearful of, then you'll see that it's a projection of something bad, not something bad happening right now. And that's what Spirit would like you to anchor into. Okay, yeah, I hear the East Coast is about to be pummeled, so I hope y'all have your fireplaces on. Well, Dig the Past 252, that's a cool name. Oh yeah, absolutely. Libra would have been stuck in, I'm a Libra sun, a late Libra sun, no less. My Mars is in Libra. I had the square to Pluto. I have an Aries rising, so I've got Chiron on my ascendant. I mean, it's a real time for transformation, and it's a time to extract the higher vibrations of the planets. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I love to watch snowfall too, but I know that being in it is honestly really difficult. It dries your skin out. It is so precarious to walk on. Be mindful, everybody. Scorpio, the King of Cups, but it's inverted. So this would indicate something about your emotional body and checking it and measuring it for mastery. What emotions are you blowing through your shell? The other thing about the Scorpio energy, I'm October 17th. Dig it in the past. I'm right the day before you. So you're born close to Spica. You're getting that late degree sun. Yep. You'd be feeling it too. And also you're feeling, depending upon, where your planets are, because I have Mars in late degree of Aries, Libra, you'll be feeling the Chiron opposition to your sun. And that would be, that's not easy. All right, here we go. Scorpio, our first angel is Merlina, but she's upside down. The second is Ray. She's also upside down. Patience is upside down. And finally, Ariel is straight up. Okay. Scorpio is feeling the square to Pluto. It's feeling, the opposition to Uranus. Yeah, it's a lot of work, the snow. What freaked me about is the work that you have to do in your house. You have to make sure the pipes are dripping, so that they don't freeze up. There's so much to do in the snow. You have to be prepared to know what you want to eat. You can't, I don't know, do they deliver, Instacart deliver? Does DoorDash deliver in these storms? I would think not. Okay, the Joy card is joining Merlina upside down. Ray is being joined by the King. Patience is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, and Ariel is being joined by the Movement card. We are on Scorpio, yes. The King of Cups upside down is interesting to me on another level. It's not just what energy are you blowing out into the world, it's what are you willing to receive? What are you willing to intuit? I think Scorpio is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac. If you have a stellium in Scorpio, you are literally in a life path where you are learning about power and control, about how you assert it and how you receive it. Because Merlina is saying you're not confused anymore. And now this is the interesting thing, because this is a mastery of emotions and intellect, but it's upside down. Here is the Joy card and Merlina. You're not confused about what you want and what brings you happiness. But on some level, how are you taking authority? Because if this would tell me you might be being you've got to be a little bit mindful of how you assert yourself. Am I asserting myself from my spiritual place? Or am I asserting myself from my human place? The challenge with Scorpio, the brooding intensity, is when we're earthbound and we don't understand ourselves. But when we understand ourselves, sometimes we also understand other people. That's one of the real challenges with Scorpio, is that you can see the bullshit underneath someone's lies, and how you process that. Like, do you get up in their face or not? Because now this is about mastery of your soul's connection to spirit and what you know on an intuitive level. Because now when I look at the Patience card upside down, there's more to study. No, you don't need to study anymore. And I want to offer it this way, because you don't need to be studying spirituality to have a gut instinct about something, or to know something's not right. Your behaviors change, something's off. And that might be part of the whole story, is how will Scorpio process that interior information? Will they confront it in a way that's adversarial, or will they confront it in a way that offers them that broad insight? Because Ariel is asking you to look at things from a spiritual point of view and to implement that through the Movement card. So I want to offer this. In these dynamics where, Uranus is making squares to the fixed signs or opposition, and then Pluto having that same dynamic, there is do I react, or do I wait a minute and pause? And that might be part of it. The King of Cups might be slow your roll. In order to find joy, make sure you have your facts straight, or make sure you know your true perspective. Because the gunny sacking or going, well, you do this all the time, could inadvertently take you off track. But I feel like this is about emotional authority. It's about knowing that it's almost like the challenge of Scorpio being ruled by Mars and Pluto is there is a warrior that can use the underbelly of your opponent's psychological makeup. And that's where the real rubber meets the road for Scorpio in the way of involvement. Because if you take advantage of that, there's a challenge. You will inadvertently lose. But when you take higher ground, meaning understanding the flawed nature of the human and the eternal nature of the soul, you'll do better. This is about emotional authority and deeper truth for you, Scorpio. And this is not about, having to interact with anybody. It could be a whole interior job. And the eclipses could actually be affecting that, because when I think about the Virgo eclipse coming up, it sextiles you in some way. So you're going to have to activate that inner knowing. It's almost like you get to recognize the pattern, and will I fall into the pattern and let my own emotions go topsy-turvy, or will I be intentional about the pattern, either step away from it or engage it with authenticity. Okay. And sometimes that authenticity will make you a bad guy. Don't get me wrong, because other people don't like to be wrong, and they don't like to be criticized. And sometimes when we're expressing why we don't want to engage, it inadvertently feel that way. All right, Sagittarius, here we go. Oh, this is nice. Ace of Pentacles. New things are starting to grow in the material world. I would think it would not be worth it. I would think that in the Instacart driver, the tip would not be big enough to get out into the kind of snow we're seeing on the news there. We had a little rain this last week, but when it gets down into the 40s and 50s here, I'm like, ooh, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine any of my dogs. Lulu will not pee in the rain. You could take her out, but she won't go. She won't go. And did I tell you she does a handstand when she pees? She literally lifts one leg like a boy, and then she lifts her second back leg and stands on her front two legs when she pees. It's the funniest thing. She's such a quirky little beast. I was listening to Edgar Casey on YouTube yesterday, a lecture about his channelings about pets and what the connection is with us and how they affect our lives. And it was very emotional for me. Does Pluto and South Node conjunct have to be the same degree to have impact in the natal chart to this lunar eclipse coming on March 3rd? You're saying that your Pluto is 23 degrees Virgo, and your South Node, are you talking about the transit South Node, Georgia? Or these are both natal? I have Venus and Pluto very close together, but not conjunct. I have Pluto at 5 degrees and I have Venus at 10 degrees. And it is technically a conjunction, but it's just out of that tight conjunction. So yes, I've experienced domestic violence. I've experienced violent partners. But I also think that Pluto is here to transform Venus's insecurity. Pluto's here to make aware the processes that enslave us because we're not trusting our skills and our talents. I'm not surprised to hear that, because I'm really like, I wonder what Mexico's chart is, but I'm with the transits. And those of you that didn't see the beginning of the show, check that out, because I was talking about the United States and the world. And while I wasn't talking about Mexico, apparently there was an assassination attempt on the president today to go along with this Mexican violence. And this is that Uranus-Mars square. All right, here we go. Sagittarius, we have Aurora. You're flying high right now. Don't descend. We have Daniel, the angel of history and relationships and marriage. We have Azure, but she's upside down. And then finally, we have Bethany, which is about self-care. Oh my God, explosions at the Puerto Vallarta airport? That's such a tourist place. Oh my goodness gracious. I guess when I'm eating my olive bread, I'll be watching the news today. Astrology is so amazing. And I think the more that we as individuals take the elements that resonate with us, because there are so many layers and layers and layers within astrology, and we tend to throw the layers away and just focus on the icing. I know, isn't that kind of crazy? But I was just interpreting the stars. Aurora is being joined by the Baird. The Baird is the enchantment of storytelling. Daniel is being joined by the angel of truth. Azure is being joined by another new beginning in the form of the novice, and the high priestess is here. This is literally, for me, for my Sagittariuses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, Spirit is telling you to connect to your Jupiter, to bring into the earth plane, Ace of Pentacles, your spiritual beliefs. Your ruling planet, Jupiter, right now is retrograde. Been reviewing all the stories that come from the Cancer energy. You can look at the house. I'll give you another layer. But essentially, there's traditions, there's things, there's nurturing qualities, and how did they play out? Because the Baird is really about history also. And Aurora says you're flying high beyond your history, beyond where you've been, and that you can very much be a teacher as a result of where you've been and what you've walked through. Daniel is also an angel of history. It's history in relationships, history in marriage. And here's the truth card. In the opportunity, the obstacle, what have you been married to in the way of your history? That maybe even unconsciously married to. You know, from the time I could open my mouth, my parents were telling me I was difficult because I was always challenging the lies that they would tell. I can remember being probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7 tops. And my mom, it was Christmas time. She took us to the store and she told me to pick out a doll for my sister. I took the task seriously. And at that young age, I picked a doll I would not want, but a doll that I thought would be good for her. When my sister opened up the screaming Mimi doll that I did not pick, I had a meltdown so big that my father had to come. My parents were divorced. And I remember us sitting on this long stairway. We lived in an apartment, you know, those apartments that have 2 apartments lowers, and then there's a big stairway and there's 2 apartments above. We must have been in an upper, and I was crying hysterically because my mom did not honor what I had said. So there's something about, for my Sagittariuses, like reclaiming a sense of yourself, looking at your history, because here's a new beginning being offered to you. But at the same time, when it looks at your desired outcome, I don't know that your desired outcome is actually fleshed out. There may be a part of you that in the new planting, you're still focused on the history that you want to walk through versus actually the future, because this is ending with discernment and self-care. So somewhere for my Sagittarius, as you're walking through a process of coming from this big picture and kind of narrowing it down to a deeper truth, and then planting the seeds for that deeper truth to be in a more materially structured way, meaning like I'm actually living it, or I'm actually believing it, or it's part of my self-care routine. And that self-care routine, let me just be clear, is discernment. Oh, this is a history. This is a pattern. This is a natural way for me to feel. Now I've got to stretch for something new. Oh, I'm telling you, I don't know. I think that I'm not a parent because of my parents and my grandparents and all the other people I watched be unconscious. I'm way too conscious for the earth plane. It makes me hard to be around. Because people want to say, I'm not playing whack-a-mole with my life. This one person that I know, I live like a football field away from the ocean. I hear the ocean. I smell stars. I smell the ocean. I see stars at night. It's a gift. And this one person who's known me for over 50 years was breaking up his relationship, but he was roommates with another guy, and they've been roommates for like 30 years. They both got divorced like a minute after they got married, and they've lived together ever since. So this guy calls me and says, you want to move out of your apartment in Laguna and go live in a valley up against a wash so that this other guy can have a roommate? Now, at first I laughed, But that was the first of a series of proposals or things he did that made me start to feel crazy. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Are you thinking? And we got in a huge argument because I told him, you're not thinking. You're playing whack-a-mole and you're throwing me into your whack-a-mole. Quit hitting me on the head. And he was like, it's a moment. Get over it. It's a moment. I'm like, no, it's a series of moments. And I don't do series of moments like this. I don't like them. And so he discounted my feelings. That was a deal breaker for me because what he was doing was he was putting on his hero cap for someone else while throwing me under the bus and then not acknowledging it. That's why I'm hard to live with. I'm hard to be around because I don't do that. If I'm throwing you under the bus, you absolutely know. People are they're wildly audacious, but they're wildly unconscious, which is why they're audacious. All right, let's go on to our Capricorns. You got a nice little card here. We got the Magician. This is the magic of everything you need to create what you want. And you're a builder by nature. But one of the things about Capricorn is the discernment. The Magician is not about building something that's old and structured and expected. The Magician creates something magical. And magic is where we are aligned emotionally to our intentions. And then the universe kicks in and boom, it happens. Oh my God, it happened out of nowhere. Well, if you look back, you'll see you were actually aligned. That's when the moment came in. These readings are not really predictions. They are momentum measurers. I know. You know what? Only the good die young. My mother, I think, is going to live forever. And she takes terrible care of herself. It's like, this is the thing that makes me laugh because this medical industry is all like your body's going to tank you. You're going to die if you eat this, if you do that, blah, blah, blah. People die when they actually want to die. They open a space in the universe for something to come in and start that body doing whatever it does. Sometimes it's an empowerment exercise and you walk through that and you become stronger. And sometimes it's your exit point. And I think that people that are truly dark to their children, people who are overly focused on their own comfort, are afraid to die. Because the big bad guy in the sky, God, the Catholic God, is going to judge them. And even if they don't believe in God, they're not sure. So they just keep living and living and living and living. So I don't know where I fit in that picture because, I'm not ready to die. I can't die with Lulu now. She's already had 2 owners die on her. I can't do that to her. So I have to live at least another 10 or 15 years for her. But hi, Lucy. That probably sounds a little morbid. All right, here we go. Capricorn, the Magician, Athena saying it's safe for you to be powerful. Archangel Gabriel's upside down. You might be feeling a little bit of, your mind is not, you might be vacillating between habits. Again, the Capricorn energy squares the Aries energy. So you're affected by the Neptune and Saturn, and you're also affected by Chiron at the later degrees of Aries. That's pretty powerful. All right, then we have Shanti, the angel of peace, and finally Isaiah. It looks to me like Spirit is saying, as the Magician, you get to line up with what am I actually thinking? How am I building? One of the things I said earlier is that when I started doing videos at the beginning of the year, I was very like, I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. If people watch, it's good. If they don't, they don't. And then I had a couple videos that did very well. And I inadvertently went back to what's the number? How many people are watching? How many likes? Did anybody comment? And then I produced a couple of videos and and those are videos that should be normal videos people would watch. But what I realized was I'm back into my old habit. I'm back into a Capricornian. If it doesn't make any numbers, if a lot of people don't watch it, it's not valuable. That's not true. And so that's what's going on here. Capricorn, it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself and to trust that you're building something from an unseen place right now. It will materialize. But first, your alignment, your calmness as you put your hands on your own life and you grow it the way you want it to be. Archangel Gabriel's upside down, which would indicate we got to look at what we're thinking and how we're thinking. And there's the focus card. This has come through this combination a couple of times today. Sometimes our focus ends up being upside down and we don't even realize it, hence my previous story. Then we have Merlin joining Shanti. Spirit is offering you peace and balance and harmony, but you too are going through a process of unraveling old stories and extracting the wisdom from that. Saturn rules wisdom through time and experience. You know, Saturn probably coined the phrase, measure twice, cuss once. I think y'all know what that means if you're into home building. Isaiah is upside down, saying it's a good time to start new things, but it's not a good time because you're still in the midst of shedding a skin. You're still in a process of recognizing that you don't have to create from responsibility and from obligation, but rather enjoy your obligations and your responsibilities because you've chosen them, because you've gone down the path that you are most impassioned by. And that will have a natural journey of responsibility, obligation, and endurance. But when you're doing something that you're creating for you, it has a whole different vibration than it's something that was given to you or something you feel you have to do. If you're tired, honor that tired. I know it is a time to be tired. It's hard to escape the tired because if it isn't emotional, it's spiritual. And if it isn't spiritual, it's physical. All right, let's go on to our final sign today, which is our Aquariuses. And let me tell you, Aquarius should be fired up. There's a lot of stuff going on in your house. And the sun shines for our Aquarians. And if anybody beats to the drum of their own gong, it would absolutely be Aquarius. Now, this is a Leo energy in this card. We always refer to the sun as Leo, but I want to offer it this way. The sun here for Aquarius is not even about the ego. It's about stepping into your truth. I can't help but see this character who is looking up to the sky, looking up to what brings warmth, you know, in the midst of playing a song, a gong, and vibration out into the universe. Let's see where we're going. I'm soul tired myself. I have to tell you, my neighbor, you know, unalived himself in a very benign way. His children were here. It was very, you know, from what I understand, it was very rational, the choices he made. It wasn't as a result of depression. And I believe that we should have that option. You know, it's our bodies. And if we're, you know, not thriving in them, again, he was in his 70s. He'd lost his wife. There were circumstances where his life might have felt rather secular, plus he was ill, and the doctors didn't give him much longer to be here. But that event hit me so, my soul exhaustion was stoked that night and in the days afterward, where it didn't take anything for me to start to cry. And once the tears came, it was just like this. I mean, it came for Lucky, it came for Mike, it came for Jeremy, it came for dreams that haven't been realized yet. And it's an interesting thing because I'm not asking why, I'm not wondering why, but at the same time, I'm tired of the journey. Like, when will this phase end? And I do think that we're going to get a little respite because now that Saturn's on the other side tomorrow, 1 degree of Aries, it'll start to separate from Neptune. And I do think that will help us not feel so exhausted, because that world access, regardless of where we are in the chart, is the inception of life. And we'll all feel it just as a natural entry point. And maybe even on some level, that exhaustion is taking us to a point of deeper authenticity. I'm too tired to do things that don't matter to my soul anymore. So Aquarius, the sun is being joined by Opal, the child of God, being protected on heaven and earth. Desiree is saying that she's upside down, so conditions are favorable to do something. The light worker is in the angel's advice. And then finally, Bethany is about self-care. Now that self-care would be more about the sun. We would go back to how do you want to ring your gong? How do you want to send your vibration out into the universe? Because every word, every thought comes at various levels of co-creation. Opal is being joined by the hawk. The hawk is representing sight, messages, omens. The dragon is joining Desiree, which is about power and strength, but in a very calm and very centered way. Indriel's being joined by the spider. And Bethany's being joined by the protection card again. I feel like when I look at this, that the journey of Aquarius is the rebirth of whatever is most important to you. Like, really. And if indeed a soul's exhaustion is on the books, bake bread, make cookies, do things for yourself because I find the baking of the bread, when my mind is distracted from, I've noticed over the last few months things that trigger my soul's exhaustion. 70s music triggers my soul's exhaustion. I go back to who I was as a teenager and I look at my path, and yes, many things I've wanted have manifested, but some things that I wanted have not manifested. And I can focus on those, and I can go to a deep level of sadness about that. But in that very moment, when I'm feeling that, I recognize that I'm cashing my chips in, that I'm saying it's over. There's no future. That's not true. Because when I'm looking here in the chat, and for Aquarius, this sun is shining. It's offering light. It's offering vitality. It's offering growth. And part of it is for you to see what's going on, to see that during disruptive times, you truly are being protected. You just went through a huge stellium, where a bunch of planets are running through your first house, potentially your 12th house. And with Mars there's natural warrior energy of wanting to fight for the future, wanting to fight for my truth. But the idea of fighting is a little bit of a resistant energy. It's that energy that says, I don't believe it can happen, or there'll be something that wants to stop that. So we have to get into this surrender, the power of it. Not your stellium, the conditions may not be effortless, but it's through the consistency. Remember, Saturn co-rules you. Saturn co-rules that. Do what you love and love what you do, because the angels are saying that the network is here. Stay connected to spirit, stay connected to your light. This goes back to the sun. And when you do that, the things that you want are protected, and they'll continue to grow. They may grow a little slower right now, but they will continue to grow. Thank you, Just Call Me. See, I want to say all these readings for me, we all have Aquarius somewhere in our chart. And even if we don't have planets in that particular house, I've got some very barren houses. I have my Chiron in Aquarius, and I have no planets in Gemini, and I have Mercury in Scorpio. I don't have a lot of friends, and even in my networks, I don't really participate. I'm more of a voyeur, these days. I watch. I don't even click on anything. But my point is that in my awareness of that, and in my awareness of what I'm digging for on a soul level, I'm digging for authenticity, my South Node in Aries, to be myself while I become the peaceful, wise warrior. Exactly, my North Node in Libra in the 6th house. So when I remember those things, then I remember that everything I'm walking through that's disruptive gives me an opportunity to demonstrate the peaceful, wise warrior. And for once in a while, I want to be a banshee. And I want to offer this too, because the disruptions I've had with other people recently, where this last 6 months or so, I haven't lost my cookies. I haven't lost, I might have sort of lost my cookies on one woman, but I didn't lose it. I knew what I was saying, and I knew I was being tough, and I knew I was being in her face. but I felt like, you know what? She's choking me on this BS, and I can't really go here. And if this is the type of, and again, here I am looking at patterns, people who are late, people who are disrespectful of my time, my energy, and I'm like, why do I want to continue this way? This is the Mercury retrograde. It will illuminate what your truth is, and it wants to walk through the fog and clear it. So wherever these planets are, let me offer you guys this idea, because this is a theory. When you have no houses, or when you have a house with no planets in it, it's not a focal point for your soul in this lifetime. There's other things on the agenda. So it's not that the absence of that energy in your chart, it's just not on a high priority. So if for some reason you have Aquarius energy, but there's nothing going on, then you don't need to feel the tension, or you don't have to endure the period of time for manifestation. I don't know. There's a lot of things. Perhaps it's not as pertinent. Exactly. So don't feel lonely if you see that. Just feel like it's not a problem area. All right. Aquarius is the opposite sign of your Leo sun. Absolutely, will always be. The house structure, this is why I like Placidus, because the house structure could change. You could have an Aquarius, in the energy in two separate houses. And that would then make the focus. So where if your sun was in opposition in the 5th house to Aquarius in the 11th house, then, it's going to be on your personal expression. But if for some reason that's 4th house, then it's going to be your home. So that's why these nuances are so important, and the degrees are so important. Mars, if your Mars is in Aquarius, I don't know what the good long time seems, because Mars takes two months to go through any one sign. And if it's in your hanging out with Venus in your 2nd house, that must be natal. Dig the past. I want to offer this. The replenishment of self actually gives you an opportunity to be there for others. It's not selfish time. It's actually good time. All right. It's time now for us to all say adieu for the week. When we come back next week, we will be very, very close to our 2nd eclipse. It'll be very close to Stephen's 56th birthday. So we'll have to remember to wish him a happy birthday. And for all of you in the meantime, be mindful. Don't poke the bear, people that that are nasty or volatile or unsteady. And when you watch the news later today and you see the disruption in Mexico and you see the assassination attempt on the president yet again, his midheaven is being affected by Uranus. It's been floating around there, and it's squaring a lot of his stuff. So pray for peace for us all. That's all. That we could just kind of judge and not be judged. Exactly. Judge not that ye may not be judged. My mother used to say that all the time as a child. That and suffer, it builds character. Children were meant to be seen and not heard. You're going to get a licking. That meant you're going to get your ass kicked. Oh, God. Why was it a licking? There's an interesting thing. Don't want to look too deep into that. Okay, guys. I love you. I pray for your peace of mind every night, because I believe if you feel peace of mind, then you will be able to traverse whatever your journey is through this lifetime. Suffering is an agent of discernment. And when we're suffering, it's a really good to know, like, I think it's that suffering is like, how important is this situation to me? Why am I suffering? Because I will tell you this, crying over Lucky and crying over Mike feels like it's not, I'm not suffering. It's a weird kind of, I feel, I take solace in knowing that I cared so much about them that it hurts this much. And that's very different than crying about other things. So we're just asked to look at the layers of our own psyche deeper and deeper. All right, guys, sending lots of love to you. Have a great rest of your weekend, a good week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday. Peace out. Bye. Where's my end button? Where's the end stream button? Oh my God, my whole thing looks weird here. I'm going to go to edit. We'll see what happens. Cancel. Am I not on a live stream? I don't think I can end this stream. Hold on a second. Grief is love, no ending button today. There is no end button and there was no time thing here. Don't have access to this feature. What is this? What is this? Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, there it is. They changed everything. There's end stream. They put it at the top and there's the time. Oh my goodness. I didn't see that. They did an upgrade. Hey, Amy. Love you. All right, everybody. I see it. I'm saying goodbye now. Bye.